was in a Q&A panel listening to some showrunners that became, former ADs that became directors on TV shows. And one of the things that the women said that was a huge challenge is that they go in and people, especially a lot of the male crew, immediately assume that they got the job because they slept with somebody. And there are this is not a dynamic that men tend to have when they are given an opportunity to direct something on a TV show. And so if you are already walking on set and you've got people who are judging you immediately without any context or understanding about who you are, I think there's just a lot of women having to almost prove themselves before they can get any kind of respect from the crew. And so it's oftentimes fighting to get that respect.
The
Get Reelisms podcast.
I am Adam Chase Reddy.
And I am Christine Chen. And surprise, we're both filmmakers.
We get into it by sharing secrets, advice, and gossip in filmmaking.
And we even get our other filmmaking friends to share theirs too.
So please, everybody, join us for
an ode
to
filmmaking.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. We're back for another episode of the Get Reelisms podcast, episode 147 of the Get Reelisms podcast. I am Adam Chase Rennie.
And I am Christine Chen, and we're always excited to bring new guests onto the podcast. So we have a new guest. Lain, do you mind introducing yourself?
Hey, I'm Lain Ewing. I'm a filmmaker, I'm a director, and I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, Lain and I met at through a mutual friend, and it's neat. We're both in Los Angeles now, and trying to direct. And make our own stuff. It's a constant struggle. So but hopefully with the IOTC stuff, reaching a temporary agreement, we'll all be working soon, and we can continue to make more fun, creative stuff for the world. But we'll see what happens.
Do you know why the process was slowed down? Because it felt like the IOTC deal was kind of going on for months. No?
Yeah, I don't think it was necessarily slowed down. I think the issue is like IOTC is made with many, many, many different departments, and how I understand IOTC to be is it's like an electoral kind of system. So like everybody has to put in their vote, and everybody has their own individual contract. So it's not like the DGA where it's only, directors, UPMs and stuff. It's like everybody else. So it's just a lot of contracts to go through. So they were slowly, each department had their own needs. And the thing is, like, they all are so different. So like what the costumers want is going to be very different from what, the Teamsters want and stuff like that. Yet they all have to have agreement with the entirety of what they're asking for from a contract perspective. So I think that is why it's taken so long. But anybody out there, if you're happen to be an expert in contracts and IOTC negotiations, feel free to chime in. But yes.
I don't think it expired until like July 20th. So I think with time, everyone takes their time. So I think now that July is approaching, people were getting really nervous.
I mean, yeah, we're basically 1 month out. So yeah, that's going to be very scary in the off chance that, IOTC are going to show up at the picket lines. It's like a deja vu in a way. And I don't think we want to go through another several months of that shit.
No, nobody wants it. But I also understand, trying to improve your contracts or being able to make a living and survive in this industry and everything. And also, people were not happy with the last contract negotiations for IOTC. I think that was the biggest thing. They felt like they kind of shorted themselves, and so this time they really somebody just answered about this. This is great. Okay, I was part of the production behind. I actually had to type out the entire monologue for foreign distributors. Have that's I don't know what that was. Chip, I don't know what you guys are talking. Oh, what you guys are talking about. But anyways, yeah. So that's my understanding. And yes, the actual contract didn't expire until really recently, but they were already starting their negotiations prior to that. So it's been a very long process, and because of that, my understanding is a lot of production insurance companies didn't insure productions. They were holding off on that. So we don't have insurance. People can't even go into productions. It was hard to get insurance. So yeah, that is why things are have been slow. But yeah, hopefully we're gonna get back and we can all make a living again and yay film. But yeah, Lain, so how did you get into this business and start making your own
Yeah.
stuff? Tell because I don't know much about your career path
Right.
either.
Yeah. I mean, it started in college. I didn't go to a film school. Like, I went for new media. So I always knew, like, the cliche answer. I always knew I wanted to make films. Went to college for new media. So it was kind of like they wanted everyone to be the 5-trick pony, where they were teaching us Photoshop, Illustrator, video, web design. And then through that, I picked video and sound, and then started making projects and started doing more like short documentaries. And then when I moved out to LA, I was like, oh, I should actually get serious and make my short films, because I made them in college. But I think, when it's not an actual film school and you have certain access to tools, like, you have more fun than I had more fun than creating like heavy art. So yeah, now I'm just kind of creating my body of work and doing the thing.
Yeah. What's been
Nice.
the most challenging thus far? Because you have something that you are trying to make right now, right? Or
Yeah. Yeah, it's like this will be my 6th short.
okay.
And I mean, right now this is the most challenging because I think we're crowdfunding for it. Most of it was, the first short I made with a friend, and we paid for it, and it was just a great learning lesson. 2 other shorts, I had friends who wrote them and starred in them, and then they kind of paid for it. So I was able to direct and learn from that. And then once I started applying to the training programs, because I also know that you're applying to programs as well, I realized that though I had some great work, that for myself, it wasn't my voice. And I don't know why it didn't dawn on me that it was like, oh yeah, I should have like an episode. Should have a short that matches the episode of TV I want to direct. So, but currently the biggest challenge is taking on this crowdfunding, because I've never done it, and I got to be on social media a lot. And
Christine knows all
You
about
love
that.
it.
Yeah.
You love social media, right? Yeah.
Ugh.
No, dude. Yeah, it's a pain in the ass. You think we like to be on Facebook and Instagram all the time? Telling you guys,
Fuck
please
no.
listen to us. No, it's the worst. Yeah. Who knew when you want to make your own stuff, you have to become a one-trick pony for marketing. So
I know, yes,
Yeah.
and it's very vulnerable. So, but if you want to go to @performancereview.film, that's our Instagram, and our crowdfund link is in the bio. And if you want to donate, amazing.
Yeah, I have 2 things to talk about this. So, you saying that not having a film that is your voice is interesting, because I'm in the process of applying to a lot of fellowships and stuff right now, and what I'm realizing is like I'm in this weird boat of I have a lot of experience, but not the exact credentials, experiences that people want for fellowship apps. So it's like, sure, you've done like this many shorts and a feature and everything, but you didn't get into Tribeca. So we don't care, So that's like, so that I got advice from somebody who is in these programs, and she's like, yeah, you've done, it's like you're very experienced, but not. It's like, it's really annoying. It's this like, sure, you have all these, on paper, you've done all the things, but it's not the exact things that these fellowships are looking for, and that's why we have to continue to make shorts and whatever to try to get the exact formula that these fellowships that are highly competitive are looking for.
That's such an uphill battle.
Crowdfunding.
That's such
it's so annoying.
Bullshit way of going about things, because it's like you said, you've done everything on paper. It's just it's not
the exact.
It's not what they're looking for. Essentially, it's like I don't know. It's like a business interview, you know. It's like a company interview, you know. It's just like oh yeah, you meet the qualifications, but are you actually qualified? It's like, what? I did the thing. I'm doing the thing. You know.
Yeah.
I know with the Warner Brother one, which technically that one I don't think is a training program. It's more like a workshop, and that one does not guarantee you to direct an episode of TV. They at least list the film festivals that they would like you to have been in. Now, you don't have to be in all of them, but they give you a great list of top tier film festivals that aren't necessarily Tribeca. So like Palm Springs, Santa Barbara, Dances with Films. But again, that one's not necessarily guaranteeing you an episode like Disney. That one guarantees you an episode, but also no one talks about if you get that and you get an episode, then how do you get your second episode? Because there's a little bit of hand holding, but like probably what you're facing, Christine, is with Disney, it's like they have successful feature directors. Like when I worked for a TV director and he had been a judge in them. And when I saw the people who applied, I was like, shit, I gotta step up my game. Like my dinky shorts might not do anything.
Yeah, no, I'm in that boat of like, they say they want like, oh, we want all level, but they actually mean that it's like even more like 30 plus years of having it's always, the industry is always a chicken and the egg game, because they're like, oh, we want to see all this experience. And then you're like, cool, I got all the experience that I can with like my limited connections. And now, but you want to see that I've directed an episode of TV and also directed a feature and all this stuff. I'm like, but I can't get those because I don't have the right. It's just,
it's all
what
over
comes
the place.
first. And it's all over the place, and it's highly, highly frustrating. So
do you
whatever.
Do you feel like, because like Christina and I talk about this like a lot for like dozens of episodes, but do you feel like there's like a stroke of luck when it comes to things like this, like when it comes to like landing a TV spot or going, you know, even just on a like me working in art department, sometimes it's kind of a luck of the draw for a producer to call me and be like, hey, we kind of need a sweaty set deck. Could you want to show up for this short or for this feature? And does it feel like there's luck with it, or it's hustle?
I think it's all of the above.
Okay.
I think it's like luck, right place, right time, hustle. And I just had a thought, but I forgot it. But yes, it's all of that. I have friends who've made it into the programs, but a lot of them, they're like, it's consistency. I have a good friend where he was like, I applied 7 years in a row and I got in on the 7th year. And he was like, wow. I think they like to see that. And I've heard that about the AD training program, that they like to see people, and ADing I think is different, or if you're trying to get into the DGA AD training, because I've heard that they like to see people consistently apply because they want to know people are serious, because I think ADing is such a beast of a job. But my friend Christina got into the Film Independent Project Involve, but it was like her 5th year applying. So some of it, I think you have to be consistent. And I had another friend give me good advice on essays of like, you have, if you're reapplying, you have to really change your essay onto like why this is the year and how you've grown and why it's different. Because part of me is like, do I just keep using the same essay? Mm-hmm. And some of it I think is just luck in the right time in the right place. Like maybe you take that set deck job and then you happen to meet a great contact and the next job they're on is really cool. And then like everything's wonderful.
It's like a snowball. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So it's
Yeah.
really no light at the end of the tunnel, Christine. We just
I
keep
know. I
applying.
think the hardest struggle, and I don't know if you feel this, is this like all of this takes energy, time, and money, right? Which we all have a finite amount of, and so it's like it's so easy to it's a constant struggle to understand what should I be focusing on because I have a limited amount of energy, time, and money.
Mhm.
How do you reconcile that or struggle with it?
All of the above. I think, like, for me this year, I took a break from applying to programs only because I had my body of work. I've applied a few years in a row, and I'm like, okay, it's not hitting. So I can apply again. I can use all this time and energy, but I might not get in. So I focus my energy on making my next short because, not only crowdfunding, we're trying to get a talent. I have a writing mentor who helped me, and she was like, you need to get a casting director and you need to get good talent. Like whether that's, an actual Hollywood actor or that's like someone who keeps being passed over and a casting director knows who they are. And then I guess it's prioritizing like what you're looking for. So some of the programs like, like if you're looking to get an episode of TV, then like look at the programs that will guarantee that. So, like I know Ryan Murphy's half initiative is due today,
Today. Yep.
which guarantees you an episode to direct. Whereas, like the Sony program, unless they've revamped it, you don't get an episode to direct. And there's been people who've talked about these programs that, like, if you're not guaranteed an episode, it's great, but it doesn't. It's more of a pat on the back for the studios.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, as long as they get a pat on the back.
Right, I know. Not to say bad, but
no, sure,
and then,
sure.
I don't know. Yeah. The other thing is just find great people who are supportive. So now I know Christine, we're all in it. Sometimes you just got to commiserate.
Yeah, that's why I feel like so yeah, you're always coming together and be like, so how are we all doing? Let's judge the temperature and make sure that we're all still in it together and still not giving up, and because it's hard. It's hard. But it's good to hear, and I think it's good for everybody else to hear out there that in this consistent pattern from talking to other people that it takes several times of applying for a lot of these things to get into it. I know that like the recent Sundance Labs with Dee, that guy said that he applied for like 3 or 4 times, and some other people have said like it's the same thing 5 or 6 times and whatnot. So, yep, I just didn't realize. I mean, like when you're in it, it's different, and I didn't realize that everybody was struggling with, the same thing, which is becoming a professional essay writer instead of actually directing anything.
I'm so bad at essays too. Like it's the worst. I feel like mine are very remedial.
Yeah.
It's like you got to dig up all the college nonsense and the high school education to just be like, how do I space out the paragraphs so I did double space? It's like the formatting is just, it's all a nightmare.
I'm like, I like directing. Please hire me. Like,
Yeah,
Right,
can't we just say why? Yeah, why can't it just be that? Hi, I'm a director. I love it. Period.
That's
Yes,
all the
and just
essay says.
simple.
It's just like hire me.
Yeah.
I direct.
But yeah,
well, you had talked about art department, which made me think of this is the first film that I worked on a film that had a production designer, but this is my first film that's had a production designer, and she will also do props. So it's very exciting, kind of, because I know your craft is very important, and it's most of the time not put a line in the budget of indie filmmaking.
Oh, almost never. Almost never. So I always see,
But yeah.
No, go ahead, Lain. Go ahead.
I would say Christine's film had great production. I cannot remember the name of it. The mermaid film.
He was on it.
Yeah.
Yes, Adam was on that. He can tell you all the I'm surprised we're still friends, Adam, after that film.
You know,
I put them through shit.
well,
Yeah.
the production designer on that shoot, Kelly Penna, I still am in close contact with, and I actually just watched her dog yesterday, and we still talk about Ursley. We still talk about we still. I mean, it for the most part when it comes to indie shoots, like you will work with directors. Like I have worked with a couple directors, very fortunate enough that actually gave a shit about art department, but I realized that they worked other departments, like they worked like G&E, they worked cinematography, they worked other departments. I even worked with a director who did hair and makeup, and he kind of like understood the battles of like making sure like there's a proper enough budget for art people and even lighting, you know, where it feels like most of the time they just worry about that. And then they worry about like props and set dressing and all that very, very last. So usually, you know, when it comes to indie shoots, the art department gets the shit end of the stick. But that applies to almost every other department, right? Like when it comes to indie shoots, it's like everybody's just kind of like fighting for, you know, that
Or attention.
Yeah. And making sure that, because we give a shit about our jobs, and I think it's fair to say that most departments give a shit about their positions as well, that they want to make the best possible thing they can make. And so it's very disheartening to work with like a director, and I've worked with a couple of these directors who just doesn't give a shit, and their note is, oh, I don't know, make it look good. And all I want to do is just walk into traffic because I hate that. I hate that note so much. It's like, this is your vision. This is your thing. Just tell me what you want to see. Tell me what you want to know. And most of the time it's like a process of elimination. And sometimes you just don't have the time or the budget to just do that. So, you know, sometimes it could be a crack job, and you might feel a little disheartened because it's like, it doesn't feel my best work at all. But then, you know, you come to realize that you commiserate with everyone else in every other department, and they're like, dog, if I had 1 week, 2 weeks to prepare, this shit would not go off the rails like it already has, you know, which is like every indie shoot. So it's a battle.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I've learned ADing is watching, because I AD a lot for first-time directors. And I think the biggest thing that stands out with the good directors and the not so good ones is an appreciation and a respect for departments. And
Totally.
the best ones, the best directors, I don't think you need to know every department, but you need to understand why each department is important. And like this past job I just did, not a good director. And the reason is because there was a lack of respect that the other departments would feel. And once you show your crew that you don't respect what they do, you're going to lose all of them. No, you're just going to. And I think that one of the biggest jobs for a director is to constantly make your crew understand that you appreciate everything that they do so much. And you never alienate your crew, because you have to be the one who cares the absolute most about your film. And that means every single freaking aspect of the film, and not just camera, or not just whatever the direction or whatever it is. And so, yeah, Lain, for you, what do you think is the department besides art that you have had to learn through your experiences through directing that you didn't know much about, that you now know, or you're trying to learn more about, or what's something I can tell art department was definitely something I had to I had to do a few to understand. Oh, okay, this is why you have art, you know.
There's kind of two. One, my experience being on TV sets as an assistant, there's post releasing on there, and I want to learn more about post. Now, that's not always on the set, but then randomly someone will show up from post, and it's like, oh, wait, who are you? And like, how are you helping today? But the other thing is, for me, it was kind of understanding the vastness of art department, production design, set deck, props, and who to go for the right thing, and asking that question. But what I've also learned is just like, because I started out as a PA, so you got to learn departments, but you really just, as long as you're respectful and nice and not demanding, you can, learn a lot and also get stuff done for yourself on the set. But yeah, I think it was just the vastness of production design, art department, set deck, and props, and how they all fit into it, and who's the right person to ask, and things like that.
Yeah. Well, that's a lot of it's just because when you're making your own stuff, the vastness of the departments end up being one department person.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Basically.
So in our Get Reelisms book, there's this page where I have the hierarchy, and it's all the nice broken down, all these different roles. And then the second page is like what it really looks like on an indie set is just like art department is like one circle.
Yes. My friend Cara is the production designer. She will also be the props person. And I was like, we have to get her an art PA, because then she's extremely talented. But yeah, it's like, how can I support you? Because you might be doing 5 jobs.
Yeah. For a very long time, I thought 18 was producing. So, I didn't know any better. Yeah.
In some way it is.
Yeah. So, what are you most excited about when it comes to your short? Oh, and maybe do like a log line about it for those who don't know what it is.
Yes. The short's called Performance Review. It is about a Hollywood assistant who it's the day of her performance review and kind of chaos ensues, the short version. It's based on an amalgamation of mine and other friends' experiences as assistants. It's a comedy. It's not something that's heavily serious in a certain way, because it's just, I don't know, at the end of the day, you got to laugh and you got to create camaraderie and the ridiculousness of this industry. So, like, she works at a talent agent. I don't want to give too much away, but like the client is very ridiculous, and all these elements that are just kind of funny, and they're pulled from real life experiences, as well as, which I'm sure everyone experiences as an indie filmmaker, of like, how do you have growth? How do you achieve growth? And like, if you have a day job, like, especially working in the industry. So that's where the performance review comes in. And, she's like hyping herself up to ask for these promotions and things, which is very scary, because sometimes we ask and we don't get them. And then the overarching thing is, I want to create the environment that I want Hollywood to be. The majority of people that we're working with are women. There's inclusivity, diversity. It's like, treat everyone with kindness. There's also body diversity. I think just seeing more representations of people. Like, for fun, I gave a watch to Devil Wears Prada, because I was like looking for a meme inspiration, and I was like, oh yeah, like, obviously it's the fashion industry and things like that, but I was like, there's not much inclusion in this. I think what I'm most excited about is to really get a solid piece of work that I think can show my skill set, but everyone's skill set who's working on it. And hopefully everyone can use it for what they need.
Totally.
How long has it taken to develop the project? Like, when did you have the concept, and when did you start writing it to where it is now?
I think it was in 2003 I had the idea.
Wow.
A
20-year-old idea.
I have to go. Oh, sorry. I said 2003. I meant 2023.
Okay, I was like, wow,
yeah.
2003. Yeah. Okay.
No.
Okay.
I think that was the original idea, and then I had one friend who was because I don't write, so I usually have ideas and outlines, and I partner with writers.
Mm-hmm.
And the first friend, she just got busy. Like, she moved to Chicago and was like, if they call me to write for TV, I will, but like, I'm doing my thing. And I was like, I respect it. I met a writer at a film festival. We hit it off, and I said, hey, I have this idea. I I babysit for a woman who is kind of become my mentor. I met her just through things. This is where the luck comes in.
Mm-hmm.
And she's a screenwriter. She teaches at USC. And we were just discussing about me, and she was like, I'll give you 3 rounds of edits. Like, in some sense, it's just, I think it's probably like a level of like, I have a good college piece of work where it's like, okay, the story makes sense and all the dots are connected. And then I think we've officially started working on it. After Christmas, I'd have to go back. It's been about 4 months. So maybe in January is when we started really going for it, because there was a strike and all these things.
What's your process? Yeah. What do you have a specific process, like as a director, like for stuff? Like, do you have, like, when you're in it, what happens mentally, physically? Like, what happens?
I think, some of it in January, it was kind of like, okay, this might happen. There was a lot of things, strike, job. And then it was kind of like, let's commit to a date. And so now we're officially in pre-production. I kind of default to my TV experience, knowing, seeing how they prep an episode of TV, or I've been on a few pilots. So that's how I approach it. You get your dates, you work backwards. So pre-production officially starts July 1st. But we're also crowdfunding, so that's overlapping. And we're also doing pre-production even while pre-production isn't starting. But and this happens in TV as well, where it's like, you call a DP and then they might have to get an extra prep day paid for, but that doesn't happen in indie filmmaking. So we're going to get a production calendar, and we're going to back everything out, and we have to figure out, we're location scouting, doing a table read, figuring out what we need. My production designer lives in New York, so I've got to send her photos, and she's going to source props and might come out here early and source props. And just kind of create a schedule and try to stick to it. I don't know if that answers the process question, but.
Well, you mentioned TV. Would you say there's much difference between the TV process and the feature world narrative?
I think maybe the only difference is time. I haven't worked specifically on a feature or an indie. So from my understanding, shooting wise, you have more time for shooting. Like in a day of shooting, you can focus on a tiny amount of the film, for, let's say, for funded. But like TV, half an hour versus an hour, like you either have 5 or 7 days, and you got to do a lot of shooting. But that's shooting wise. For pilots, you get more prep time. But like an episode of TV, it's usually 7 days of prep, so it's very accelerated. And it's, sometimes, which I want to try to avoid, it's the learning lessons. Like when you come into an episode of TV, you might be having the concept meeting day one. And it's kind of like, if you're an episodic director, it's like, well, you just got the script and now you got to prepare and be able to hit the ground running. For this, I hope to kind of just go in, a little more organized. It's only an 8-page short, so it's not like a 30-minute episode. So
yeah, it's our careers are a little bit different. I've done primarily indies and features. I haven't done TV, and it's one of the things I've wanted to just check out here in Los Angeles, because see what the differences or similarities. But yeah, I find that's interesting with the prep. I would think that they would have more prep. But I did know that the shooting, it goes really, really fast because they usually have multiple cameras and stuff going on, right? It's for
Yeah, it's at least two. Like I assisted on the TV show Loot, and they had 3, which makes the days go by really fast.
yeah,
But I also think it's the money, the studio, the talent, because it makes it easier for them. Like they get in around 7, they're out by 5.
Hmm.
My guess is just a really accelerated indie. It's
Yeah.
a machine essentially. Like TV's also a writer's medium. I think
right.
unless you're like a series director.
Right.
Yeah. Tell me about your TV experience in terms of like, I've this stuff is fascinating to me because I have not been on a series.
Yeah.
Texas doesn't really get them. Yeah.
I started out reality PAing, moved to scripted PAing. So like my first show was like Lethal Weapon. And that's when I was like, oh, I want, maybe I'll AD. This seems more obtainable than directing.
Mhm.
Did a handful of random shows and like PA'd on Grey's Anatomy.
How was that? Like can you pinpoint like, oh, I really loved this show or like I really did not and why type thing? Just specific examples.
For production assistant, I really loved PAing on Ghosted. It's like a short-lived Craig Robinson and Adam Scott and TV show.
Yeah.
But the crew was really fun. My roommate was a staff PA on it, so she got me days for day playing. But everyone just seemed, I don't know, it all gelled and everyone seemed really nice. For Lethal Weapon was really challenging because a lot of times they had multiple units going at the same time, and there's a lot of stunts. So, and if you're just day playing, you're kind of thrown in and you don't really know what's happening. And I was on a learning curve because I was still learning. So I was like trying to do lockups or like I had to do a lockup in Venice Beach, and it was like hell because no one listens to you. Yeah, it's like and you're like, please don't film, and they're like, we can do whatever we want.
Oh my
Oh my
gosh!
And
I
then-
can't imagine doing that.
Yeah, on Venice.
This-
Yeah, to just tell people, hey, fucking stay over that line. Don't cross here. It's impossible. It's crazy.
I was like, ugh. And then here's where the luck part comes in. I was able to transition to assisting a director all by working with a friend who I met on American Ninja Warrior. And we literally had lunch and I was like, I want to be a director's assistant. And then like 2 weeks later, she's like, the show that I'm working on in the office, the director needs an assistant. And I was like, holy shit. And from his work, I was able to get on some cool shows. Like I assisted him on Shameless and Blackish. I did Loot. I was on the FX series that's out right now, Clipped. I was the assistant for all of that. The like fun thing is like when you go from PA to assistant, at least people are like, "Oh, do you need a chair?"
Right.
Can you describe what being a director's assistant is like? Like what does that entail exactly?
It all depends on the director. And there's many different routes. So sometimes shows hire director's assistants, and you'll be paid by the show. I worked for this individual personally. So I did the gamut of everything, which means like I was literally feeding his son's tree frog. I was picking up dry cleaning. But sometimes like the fun creative parts, like the way that he breaks down scripts is different in his brain. Like, it's almost like a short summary. So he can literally like read through like scene 1 and it will just be like, Bob talks to Sarah and they decide to go to the store. So it's like he can read these highlights for himself rather than having to like flip through the script. And so like those breakdowns were fun for me because you're reading it, you're doing something creative. There's support, like obviously there's coffee and lunches and things like that. There's setting up meetings, making sure, he's available to talk to the showrunner, or if all of a sudden he needs to talk to the DP, it's like doing a lot of organizational stuff. a lot of people have went digital, so they use scriptation, but before they would use binders. So it's like keeping his binder up to date or changing things. It's nothing uber creative unless like you and that director have a relationship in the sense of creativity. It's really just an opportunity, I think, to see it all firsthand.
Yeah.
And see how he works with the actors, see how he like rehearses blocks and lights, see how you talk to maybe challenging talent.
Are you able to elaborate? You don't have to say names.
No, I think I was on a commercial once, and I don't really know the whole situation. The talent didn't come out for like 5 hours. I was like, this is the Hollywood moment of like, I've never experienced this.
Yeah.
And it was the point where like they were like, okay, all producers or whoever have went up there, so I'll go up and have a conversation. So it's like I think you see that in movies when it's like the director has to talk to the talent.
Yeah.
Or sometimes we're all artists, we're moody. And I think if there's, a more artsy, moodier person, how do you like approach them without making them feel threatened or making feel like they're in the wrong? It's creating trust and things like that where I don't know, sometimes they're like, I don't want to deal with you. Like, quit being a baby.
I don't want to talk to you. I don't even look at you, dude.
That's so interesting. I've always wondered because like on the crew side, if you didn't come out and be on set in 5 minutes, like you're not working. So it's like, I always wonder how people who have these needs continue to get work.
I think some of it is talent. Like if you're a talented actor, sadly, you can probably behave any way you want to a point. I think sometimes there's people who behave a certain way to crew and certain people versus the people who have the power. So they might behave differently to producers or other actors to present a certain light. But it's really just a mix. I guess it's like maybe understanding that the talent is also under a lot of pressure and they just throw tantrums. They can throw tantrums. Not necessarily tantrums, but that's how the behavior gets exhibited, I feel like.
Well, they get away with a lot more shit.
Yeah. One of our, an indie feature, like one of our talent who's been the newest Top Gun threw food at the producers and I was like, wow, I wish I could do that and still
have a job.
That's a lot.
Have a job.
Yeah. I've never seen anything like that. The most is like, somebody won't come out of their dressing room or like they're argumentative with the director and they're directing their directions or they're almost trying to direct the episode, but nothing as extreme as that. That's wild.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah, you see
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Christine.
Oh, I was just gonna ask, like, have you seen something like, where you're like, oh wow, that is a great technique. I will utilize that when I direct a difficult talent or whatever. Like, have you seen anything specifically skill wise that you were like that you learned from?
I'm trying. It's interesting because what I've heard is women director and men directors approach are different.
Yes.
And not necessarily in a bad way. I think women we can see what's happening but we can also maybe I don't know if coddle's the right word, but like be too sensitive. I don't know how to, but like I've seen
maybe?
in certain ways where like understanding, but it might be giving that person too much space to be something. Whereas I've kind of witnessed maybe with a man director, they can be a little more direct, but like still being empathetic. And I don't know if that comes with experience versus maybe the other woman director. It was just kind of someone, as I was sitting there, like someone said, hey, you know, I like this way that they direct because they're very direct in their ask, and this happens. And sometimes, you know, the other directors can be a little more gentle with them. And I was like, oh, that's an interesting observation. But one thing, it's not necessarily with talent, but I think it's with crew. Like I was on a commercial. The crew, I don't really know what was happening, but like it was rushed. They set up like a just a wonky camera setup, and when we went to roll, like it was like in a car, and the whole thing like fell down. And instead of like getting upset or saying anything, the guy who I was assisting, he just said, okay, like we learned a lot on that take, so let's go back. And instead of getting mad or pissed or blaming anyone, it's just a really great way to be like, okay, we learned, let's just back it up and internalize your frustration.
Right.
Yeah. It's interesting. I've go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that, like, because you're setting like you were saying, it's like you gotta. There's a level of understanding when it comes to like, and I see this too with male and female directors. Like you said, with male directors, I feel they're very direct way more, but the thing that I see a lot is that they don't read the room. I don't know if that's a right.
Oh, that's 100% true. Yeah,
but like,
yeah,
you know, they don't read the room, and they kind of let things go by the wayside when it could have been nipped in the bud like immediately, especially with problematic crew members, and they just kind of let that shit just like, because I've even seen like, I mean, I don't want to say specific, but I've even seen like sexual harassment shit, like HR problems on a film shoot, and nobody says a fucking thing. And I was only an art PA at the time, so it's like, what am I gonna say? Fucking like go to my production designer and be like, hey, I've seen some like crazy shit. I want to call this out. They're just gonna be like, go ahead,
right?
Go send yourself to the guillotine if you want, because that ain't my job, you know. And so I think there's a fine line between having that experience and knowing that like internalizing it and not showing it to the entire crew is more ideal than just straight up, I'm going to throw food at people and go fuck yourself. How about that? You know, like that's like such a weird, like, because that applies to any industry, right? It's like if you're a problematic person to work with, there's like unless you're incredibly talented, like you said, there's like a pretty good percentage that they're not going to fucking hire your ass again, you know? But if you show up and do a great job, that might be different, you know?
I think it goes on the delivery. And I want to go back to when talking about the male versus the women, it was on a specific show. Whereas like, I think anywhere, if there's problems that you see, it should be addressed. And especially like as the director, they should go and say it. And, there also is great differences between men and women director too. And the women also have many strengths and not necessarily just too coddly, because we can be also really good actors, directors. And I think you can create a lot of trust too and be direct with them in like a private situation as well.
Totally.
I think because I was on a Q&A panel listening to some showrunners that former ADs that became directors on TV shows. And one of the things that the women said that was a huge challenge is that they go in and people, especially a lot of the male crew, immediately assume that they got the job because they slept with somebody. And there are this is not a dynamic that men tend to have when they are given an opportunity to direct something on a TV show. And so if you are already walking on set and you've got people who are judging you immediately without any context or understanding about who you are, I think there's just a lot of women having to almost prove themselves before they can get any kind of respect from the crew. And so it's oftentimes fighting to to get that respect on set. I see it being an AD, especially when there's a male director or primarily male crew and everything. I had this conversation with a dear friend, and one of the things I struggle with on set is a lot of people assume that, and I'm totally, I'm a LGBTQIA supporter, ally, but I struggle with people just assuming that I am a lesbian. And a lot of it is purposely how I present myself in terms of the way I dress and everything. I try to skew more asexual and everything because I find that when I don't, men seem to take that as a permission to disrespect you in some sort of way, and I had this conversation with a costumer who said, "Oh, you shouldn't have to do that. You should be able to dress the way you want on set and command the same kind of respect and everything." And I was trying to let her know that there are certain departments that it is more accepted that you put on makeup and you wear a dress or look more feminine and everything. But in certain positions of power, for some reason, just from a societal aspect, the thing is, it's subconscious, a lot of the times. I don't think guys or even women know that they're doing it, but they just look at you and they think, "Oh, you're so feminine. I bet I can walk all over you," or like, "Oh, I'm going to treat you less seriously because you look like you're girly girl," or whatever it is. And sure, you can quickly change that, but that's just one more barrier to cross. And so I just try to eliminate that because I don't have time to not have crew take me seriously immediately. And I don't know, Lain, if you've ever had that. It's different when you're a director and making your own stuff because I think we tend to make sure that we curate an environment that doesn't have that. We, pick our crew, we pick our team and everything. But I know that as we advance and we start to have opportunities to direct projects where we don't have control over the team that comes in, whether you've have that experience before.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Like I can relate in many different ways of just working as a PA or seeing it. I've assisted women directors on TV shows. And it was funny because I was really thinking about the experience and I was like, okay, when I assisted this man director, I felt like he asked for things and it got done. Mm-hmm. And there were certain things that I was, she asked for things and it was always like I don't know, it was exhaustive. It's like I felt like I had to explain the thing. And they weren't necessarily both the same ask, so I know you can't compare them equally, but it definitely was something that I was taking in. And that woman was also, I wouldn't say she was like a girly girl, but she wasn't like dressing down or anything. So I've definitely seen that as an assistant. I think as a PA, and I can speak to someone like I'm a woman of size. I feel like I go out, if I was PAing, people make assumptions of like, oh, maybe she can't work hard or be slow. And I always work twice as hard. And then, people will be like, oh, you really like are getting in and doing this. And I'm like, yeah, it's an assumption, but it's also masculine presenting. I feel like I'm, you're almost just dressing asexual to be like, I'm here to work. Like, don't ask me questions. Yeah, I've definitely seen it and experienced. And as soon as you said that, even on a big TV show, we had an amazing first AD. And I felt like as soon as she stepped on set, she went from like, normal person to this almost assertive, like had to feel like she was being a man because I'm sure she's faced a ton of things.
Yes. But that's, I got kicked out. There you go. Yeah, no, that's how I feel when I'm on a set. And I wish it wasn't that way, but hey, did you get kicked off of the Reelisms?
I did. Yeah.
My phone died. I'm really sorry, y'all. I didn't.
Oh, it's okay. Well, there we go. Yeah, no,
Hollywood shutting us down. No.
Oh no. Yeah,
it's the man shutting everybody down.
I think that's that's the thing that I've been trying to reconcile, because yes, to an extent, I would like to change that in terms of I should, as a woman, be able to dress however I want and still be taken just as seriously. But also sometimes you just don't want to have to struggle against, to fight against that, you know?
Right.
Sometimes you just want to show up on set and people to immediately take you seriously. So if that means I just have to asexualize myself and present more as a man, like, fine, whatever gets it done. Yeah. So.
Yeah. For me, I guess in the lucky part, I like just jeans and a t-shirt, and that's comfortable to me. So I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything. But yeah, you should be able to not feel like, if you want to have any flair to you, that people are going to like
judge you
for
different.
It. Yeah.
It's interesting. I've been I wore a dress to set, but it was primarily a female like department heads and everything, and it was great. It was great to be able to do that,
yeah.
But would I do that for any other set? No, because I feel like I would get judged for it. I would literally, someone would be like, oh, they're not serious about their job, and which I don't agree with that, but
and they can take advantage of it too,
right?
And that's
if that reminds me, like, the woman who I just assisted directing, she always wore these really cute like sandals. They might even have been Birkenstocks. And first, like, it was more of a safety thing. I'm like, should you wear open-toed shoes on a set? Like,
that's a different. Yeah.
But also I was like, she doesn't care. Like, she wants to dress her own flair. She doesn't like she's not gonna try to more masculinize herself. So I was like, good for her. Like, she's just gonna keep it the same, and she'll just take it with stride.
Yeah,
she might break her toe, but
I mean, like, there's certain things I if it affects safety and everything, I think it's a little bit different. But like, I wear these athletic dresses basically that honestly just serves the same. I like it because it's got pockets and everything, and I like that it feminizes me and everything, but it's still functional. But I often wonder, if I were to show up like that on set, if people will look at me differently, and if so, is that okay? And can, by doing it and normalizing it, am I doing the industry more of a service to fight that judgment? Or am I just creating more problems for myself? I don't know. I wonder about it a lot.
I think it's like, if you're comfortable, like me, I'm like, ugh, I couldn't work in a skirt solely just because I'm like, I don't think I bump into things, I scratch myself, like, more of a logistical thing for me.
Right.
But if you're comfortable and it like, that's all that matters. Like,
it works, yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's kind of like, I learned not to wear fun looking boots because they're just fashion boots and they kill my feet at the end of the day, where it's like, I'm going to wear the supporting one. So that's kind of like, yeah, if it's wearing it and it supports you. Like, I think when I worked on American Ninja Warrior, I bought like a hiking skirt with, it had like sewn in shorts.
Yeah.
So
that's
it was
why
like,
I usually, sewn in shorts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was like cute and functional. And it's like, yeah, it's not like you're wearing couture to AVN, but
no.
If you want
it's just interesting. It's just this is a new part. I think it started ever since I AD'd. I'd never had to think about it because prior to that, you're always working with your own crew. But when you start working on other people's sets and you don't have any control over who becomes part of your set, it's then dealing with a new set of problems, which is people.
Right.
People you don't know.
People are an issue.
Yeah, because you don't know backgrounds, you don't know all their little quirks, and I think that's part of the beauty of working on so many different sets is learning to work with all sorts of people and learning how to deal with everybody's intricacies. And I think as a director, that's one of the things that makes a good director is being decisive, but also knowing how to navigate and get what you want, no matter the environment and the kinds of people who are there who are going to fight against that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Being
Well,
decisive. I
and-
would say, oh,
Yeah.
go ahead.
No, please, Lain, go ahead.
I was going to say, from what I've heard, or it's like a little bit set, this is kind of separating what we were talking about, but I think the pressures on first time directors is also make sure you prep. Like any experienced director or people were telling me a lot of times, people kind of come in. This is different in the indie world, but in TV, when someone gets their shot, it's like they don't understand how it works and they think all these departments are going to do things for themselves. So, be decisive, but know everything by the back of your hand. 'Cause
yes.
if you're working, like if, as an example, Blackish, all those people have been on that show. They can do that show in their sleep. Like, they know the show probably better than a first time director. So you got to be ready to like have answers, have questions, and be able to like really tell them, explain to them like why you're there in a sense, or really give them that, because they can do it just as good because they've been on the show for so long.
Yeah.
Not
Mhm.
directing, but they know their character.
They know the details and ins and outs of the story more so than you might. IG's working now if you want to join.
Yeah, I just
Yes.
got the stream back. I just waved to you. But yeah, I find that even like talking about this is interesting, just because it's a no fucking brainer. Like, you should wear anything, you should be yourself, you should always like, be the best representation of yourself as you possibly like can be. But like the fact that like, there it comes to like if you dress a certain way, you look, you present yourself in a certain aspect, like you could be taken advantage of, you could be vulnerable, all these things can happen. But it feels like all in all, like I don't know, like it feels dumb, but at the same time, it still is a thing. Like it's a
problem.
very much a
Yeah.
thing, and you're right, it's a problem. Like I don't understand how people, even directors, like male directors, could or no, just like any department really, who are just working, feel like they can justify or just judge people based off of like who they look and whatnot. Like, I'm sure it goes far as saying like even with like religious aspects, like if somebody's wearing keffiyeh to set, like that can make somebody uncomfortable, or if they're working in any representation, like it can make somebody like spark some sort of like, I don't know, like inner hatred that they then have to feel like they have to project onto you, which is such a silly, stupid fucking concept, but it still is a real thing. And that it like, and I will say, like, I feel fortunate enough that I don't have to worry about that, but I am cognizant and aware of the fact that like other people do worry about this, and they worry about this on a daily basis, and it's certainly not fair. And I feel like the onus is on the production to make sure that everyone feels like they can show themselves as their best possible selves and do the work as their best possible selves as well. And that's all that fucking matters. So if you want to show up in a dress and open-toed Birkenstocks, fuck it, like have at it, like do your thing. If you slice off your toe, that's on you, but that's neither here nor there. It just, whatever you feel is comfortable, you just do it. And judgment should never come into consideration, but unfortunately that doesn't apply to the entire film industry.
Lain, as of I think a final, as we're getting closer to time, I wanted to ask, once you finish your short, what are the top 3 things you hope to gain from it, and that would make you feel like it was a success or worth your time, or what are you trying to learn from it?
Yeah, I think for me, I can't like speak for the team, but for me, the one, to get into a top tier LA film festival, such as Dances with Films, blah, 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 because then that gives me accreditation to apply to a directing program. Obviously, the dream is to get in, but even just to get an interview from this, because I feel like I want this to be the best piece of my work forward. And then the other thing is just to create a experience from it where everyone feels comfortable, everyone feels seen or heard or accepted, and it is creating the diversity inclusion in front of and behind the camera, and everyone has a voice. So if we can create that, it's almost like a case study, I guess, in some way. Is like, how can we raise money? How can we attempt to pay the whole crew? How can we do this and say, like, if you can't find these people, we are going to go find them. I hate that. Well, no, we can't find anyone, or no one's available. Plenty of people are available. Right. And the other thing is giving people chances and shots. And this is more so for bigger productions. But yeah, so that's kind of it. It's just creating that example and hoping that we can, I don't know, share that success.
That's great.
I think that's great. I do want to say though, the concept. I know we got to wrap it up, but I got to show my compliments to the concept of performance review, because I feel like that applies to other industries, and I kind of like harken back to like my previous career working in retail as an assistant store manager, and how I even got the position of an assistant store manager because of a performance review. And it was like a traumatic week for me to get into that transition, because I had to know everything about the company. I have to know the sales. I have to know LY. I have to know all these KPIs that I can recite to the manager's manager, like the top executives, to show that I know a thing or two about this company. Please fucking consider me and hire me and give me money, So I don't know. I think that's a really fun and interesting concept to play with, because the application is universal, but I feel like even in part of the film industry, like performance reviews are like, it's like an anxiety odyssey in a way, when you have to
they're
bare your soul.
They're scary.
Yeah.
And like, people could say no, which
Exactly.
I have had those experiences. I have had people be like, okay, no, thank you. And I was like, dang. The other thing, the part of it that makes it a comedy is basically it's a human who's capable of doing something, and she accidentally eats a pop brownie. So it's like, I don't know where everyone's at, but I have many, many years ago, I've eaten a pop brownie, and it was a horrible experience. I laugh about it now, but it goes from taking someone who's capable, chaos happens, she becomes, incapable, but then prevails, and, being capable to try to do her job, and the arc of it as well. And, like, drugs can be funny sometimes.
It's a great comedic tool. I gotta say. Yeah, it is.
So call to actions, everyone. Remind everybody again where they can find information about your film and how to help out with making it a reality.
Yes. So the Instagram is at performancereview.film, where the Indiegogo campaign is in the bio. The link is in the bio. And we have some funny perks. You'll get a crazy lunch order, an insane text from a boss. We just launched a new perk today for some artwork. Or you could just get a little shout out on Instagram. I have like a tiny URL for the Indiegogo, but it might be weird to read it off. So just go to our performancereview.film on Instagram.
Yeah, and I'll tag it on the Instagram live stream so people can follow that link.
Oh, thank you so much. So,
yeah, totally. Because again, like I said, it's a phenomenal concept that I feel like more people should get behind, because this is real world shit. And maybe you're not, it's not relatable to like eating a pop brownie and going on a vision quest, but it still
Right.
applies nonetheless, in so many situations. So I wish you the best of luck, Lain, and I can't wait
Thank
to
you so
see
much.
this. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Christine.
Yeah, of course. Hope everything goes as planned, and if not, you learn a lot from it.
You
So
learn,
all you can do
But
is
yes,
try.
thank you
you
so
learn a
much
lot.
for being a part of it. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing your experiences and everything. And hopefully, once you've made it, you can come back and talk about everything that you learned.
Yes, and when you're directing TV, we can commiserate.
Yes. So yeah.
And
Remember.
speaking of learning stuff, you know what time it is, ladies and gentlemen. It's housekeeping time. Get your Get Realisms books today. GetRealisms.com. It's what it is. Get your hats, get your books, get your shirts, get everything you need. GetRealisms.com. Again, thank you, Lain, so much for showing up to the pod. Open invitation. Let us know how the short comes around, and we'll be there to promote it
definitely.
and everything. So yeah.
Yes,
very
thank you
excited.
so much.
Of course.
Yes.
For that being said, ladies and
All
gentlemen,
right.
thank you so much, Instagram. Thank you so much, Facebook. Sorry, Instagram. My phone decided to. It's crazy. I was on 62% battery, and then it jumped down all the way down in like a span of 45 minutes. So, fun fact: Instagram Lives suck up your battery quite a bit. So. Fun little neat fact there. Thank you so much, everybody. We appreciate you. Thank you, Facebook. That's about it.
That's it.
Thank you so much.
Make movies, everyone.
Make movies. Thank you so much.